Some members are okay with the government shutdown, especially in the House. But another thing that was strange is McConnell said earlier, according to reports, that he expects the continuing resolution to go through to December. Now, that's something McCarthy has said that's not happening. He doesn't want that. He wants a short-term CR, does not want to get jammed against the holidays, and wants to negotiate through that.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by Congressional reporter Reese Gorman. Reese, recess is over. Members of Congress coming back. What are some of the things that are going to be on the agenda when they return?
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot. They have a lot to do.
Right.
There's so much to go through. Appropriations being the most important. The Senate has passed all their appropriation bills out of committee, but they're not passing one off the floor. The House, on the other hand, only passed one off the floor. And they have until September 30th to avoid a government shutdown. That is very unlikely to happen. They will more than likely have to do a CR. That is what McCarthy said on a GOP
And that's a continuing resolution, which is a temporary
stopgap measure that funds the government at the previous year's levels. And so McCarthy, the speaker, is looking for a 30-day CR at most. A little short-term. He doesn't want to be jammed up against the holidays.
Right.
And this would continue to have the government funded while they continue to negotiate, because it's virtually impossible for them to get the House to pass their 12, Senate pass their 12, them get into conference, come up with a plan, and then resolution, get a conference report, file it all before September 30th. That's just not possible. So they will have to have a continuing resolution or a government shutdown, which some members are okay with the government shutdown, especially in the House. But another thing that was strange is McConnell said earlier, according to reports, that he expects the continuing resolution to go through to December. Now, that's something McCarthy has said that's not happening. He doesn't want that. He wants a short-term CR, does not want to get jammed against the holidays, and wants to negotiate through that.
So Kevin McCarthy has a problem with his right flank in the House Republican Conference, because some of them are not as eager to see some of these stopgap measures, and some of them want to see deeper cuts or see specific things cut that maybe would be difficult to get through the Senate.
And also, a lot of them, they're not always on the same page.
Right.
On the call the other day, there was Chip Roy wanted border. He's like, we need more funding for border. We need to protect the border. We can't keep funding the Department of Homeland Security at the same levels or giving them money for them to do nothing about the border. On the other hand, Bob Good, another Freedom Caucus member, cares a lot about spending. We need to cut spending. We need to cut spending. We need to cut spending. And so there's a little bit of internal disagreement within the right flank that has a disagreement with McCarthy and his conference, because they all kind of want different things. Now, obviously, if you increase border security, that's going to increase funding and spending. And if you just want to solely cut spending, then you can't really increase DHS without making drastic cuts elsewhere. The number that everyone is saying is $1.471 trillion. That would fund it at pre-COVID levels. That would knock it down, and that's what the baseline number that they're working towards, without the added rescissions going back on top. They want the rescissions to be used solely for deficit reduction, not for added spending. And rescissions are basically they're funds that have been appropriated but were never spent. Right.
And so it's sort of a way of clawing the money back.
Yeah. And sometimes it's used as a way to, this is money that's already been appropriated, so it doesn't count towards that $1.471 trillion. So they say, we're only going to spend $1.471 trillion and then use these rescissions. But it's like, this money's already been appropriated, so it doesn't count for the baseline. The Freedom Caucus doesn't want that. They want those numbers used as deficit reduction.
So obviously it's going to be government shutdown watch as soon as everybody is back. But all eyes are also going to be on Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Yes. Why?
Well, he had his second health episode scare in about a month, really. And when this one time was in Kentucky, he was back home, and someone asked him, a reporter asked him about is he running for re-election in 2026. And he froze up again. This is the second time. If you remember the other time that happened, he froze up, kind of his weekly leadership briefing that he does. And he has had other health scares. He had a concussion that had him out for a good chunk of time earlier in this Congress. So, and he's getting old. I know there's been reports that he has also fell off a plane, that he's been using fell off while walking off the plane. Has been using a wheelchair when he's not in the Capitol. And so there are kind of concerns about his age and his health to lead the conference. So, and it was, I mean, this last freeze up was a little longer than the one that we saw back in July. It was approximately 30 seconds where he just kind of freezes up. Now, recently, the attending physician said that he is cleared to resume his schedule, saying that lightheadedness is kind of a symptom or of concussion recovery, which, as I mentioned, he did recently have a concussion.
Sure.
So there's that, but also, I mean, they're concerned, especially in a time when age is especially in the Senate, has been such a kind of high focus with President Joe Biden, with kind of his gaffes and his age that's been questioned a lot by Republicans, Dianne Feinstein, who has had her own set of health issues related to her age. So I think this is also kind of amplified by the other leaders in government that have kind of had the same kind of health scares related to age, or just visible kind of actions.
Signs of aging, signs of health,
exactly.
Right?
So,
well, it'll be something to watch.
It will be for sure. And I think especially the most important thing to watch will be the House. Because that ultimately, they're going to have the most trouble fighting. I mean, McCarthy is... they seem pretty dead set on
small majority,
a very small majority, and they only have one little sector of the branches of government. I mean, they have half of one branch, and they don't have the White House. So it'll be really hard for them to get what they want. And you saw they were upset after the debt ceiling deal with the Fiscal Responsibility Act, and so this is just going to be another test of McCarthy's leadership.
Absolutely. Thank you, Reese.
Thank you, Jim.
You can read Reese and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.